What's up, everyone? Beast Mode back here with another video, and I know it's been about a month. I seem to be on the once a month grind, but I am preparing for my third child. I have not had as much time as I'd like to make videos. I know when I first started the channel, I was grinding 2 videos a week, and I've had more and more children, so I haven't had as much time. And in between, getting ready for the baby, I am trying to play test a little bit for YCS Providence, which is May, essentially, next month. So I do plan to be in attendance. So if anybody is there, want to come up and say hi, I'd be happy to talk and, hang out. It's always a good time. And do I plan on winning? Maybe, hopefully a couple rounds. So I haven't done a tier list for 2025. Wanted to keep the video light, just kind of give my 2 cents on some of the decks of the format. It's really not the same as, the Edison format is not nearly what it was 6 months ago. It changes constantly, and I know many of you who watch the channel are very competitive and know what the top decks are, but it's nice to further elaborate on some of them and kind of hear a different point of view. So we'll get into it. A lot of these decks in this tier list here, or tier maker, are just complete ass. I don't even know where they came from. Tier list maker was sent to me by Echo, and I kind of added a couple on there. And so we'll just kind of run through the list real quick. S tier is obviously the best decks of the format. There are probably 4 or 5 of them, and if you play an S tier deck, you have a good chance at topping event or winning the event. That would be what you would expect with that type of deck. Tier 1, top 8, definitely. You could even win the event if things go your way. 1.5. Maybe you top 8, but you probably don't win the event. Tier 2 is your top 16 decks. You see them few and far between. They sneak in there every now and then. Probably won't win the event or haven't won an event in a long time. Tier 3, just don't bother playing them. That's going to be the ass tier for today. So let's throw in the first one, Aliens. Ass. Next, Amaryllis. This deck used to be real, not real right now. I don't know why you'd really want to play. I know it does things differently. It's just not as good of a plant version as the Gigaplant deck. I think the new Gigaplant deck is what Amaryllis wanted to be, but just wasn't there at the time. And I would say this deck is probably still good enough to top 16 in an event. You may maybe sneak into top 8, but I just don't know why people would want to play this. It just doesn't. It clunks up. It's just. It's inconsistent. I just want to play it. Hybrid Blackwing. This is a more inconsistent version of regular Blackwing. I don't know why you'd want to play this deck. Why not just play regular Blackwing? The only thing that's going for this deck is that it is probably this much faster than Blackwing itself. But if you want a little bit more speed, you could play Hybrid Blackwing. But I feel like at this point, just slam Blackwing and Black Whirlwind and be done. Blackwings, they're the best. In my opinion, I think right now, Blackwing is the best deck of the format. I think it has enough tools to deal with every combo deck out there. It has natural answers to the Forg deck with Icarus Attack, Royal Oppression. It can main deck DDV. It just has too many tools. It is always going to be relevant. It has all the best cards printed in 2010, and it will probably be the best deck of the format or going forward. At least if it's not the best deck, it'll be S tier. It just has too many cards that work well together. It has instant wins almost with Whirlwind if you open turn 1. It's just the best, and a lot of people are playing it right now. Chainburn, Chainburn is one of those decks where it's like, I don't really want to win this tournament. I just want to go there and ruin one player's day. That's when you load up Chainburn, because you're going to win round 1. Maybe you win round 2. You ruin 1 or 2 players' days, and then you don't win another round again. So I don't particularly care for Chainburn. I won't play Chainburn. Don't play Chainburn. Next, Dark Calling. I think this deck is sneaky, decent, because it plays Fossil Dino, which is really good into combo decks. I don't really know. I learned a little bit more about this deck. I think you could maybe win some games with it if you can do the whole Fossil Dyna, special summon the big guy and then bring back the Fossil Dyna from Banished. I don't remember what the trap card's called, but I'd still probably put it in tier 3. Disaster Dragon is, I don't even know what Disaster Dragon is. We'll just put it down here. Most of the dragons, I thought that they were going to be much better. My last tier list last year, I had put them tier 1.5. They top every now and then, but a lot of players just don't play the deck. It has natural ways of stopping a lot of the light and dark decks, obviously, with the Drago, but that doesn't stop plant deck, and it doesn't stop the fish deck. So probably need to knock it down a few tiers here. Diva Frog was a real deck when the Poke Rapper played it, but other than that, I don't think anybody would want to play this when you can play Hero Frog and Forgs. Diva Hero Beat, let's face it, this deck is ass. I don't know why people play this deck. It's actually right now, I should probably not say that. It's decent like as of today, because I think there's a lot of Blackwing running around. There's a lot of GB running around. So like if you have a local that is plagued with Gladiator Beasts like mine, you could load up Hero Beat and just be like, you can kind of counter the deck. But it doesn't do anything unless it has Gemini Spark, and like, I don't know. I just feel like it's lackluster. It has to open up like Stratos and 4 or 5 back row to get there. Kind of, it plays like Gladiator Beast really, and I would just play Gladiator Beast if I want to play a deck like that. So Diva Hero still 1.5, I would say. Like, you're gonna top 8 with this deck, but I don't know if you'll win the event because it's consistency issues, right? But I will say that this is the type of deck that is what you kind of need to play right now in modern Edison, because it's explosive, it's fast, but it's inconsistent. And that's kind of like all the combo decks right now. Players are deciding to play combo in speed rather than consistency. And that's just kind of where we are. I'm not a huge fan of it. And again, I'm not trying to say the format's ruined and that you're just going to play 13 combo decks throughout your whole tournament. Like, that's not what it's going to be. But as the format keeps progressing, we've gotten faster and faster, and players also want to win and win. And you don't get as many of those free wins earlier rounds of tournaments. You're not going to play the quick draw players usually. You're not going to play the Synchro Cat. Like, that deck's not even real. You're not going to play Flame Veil. You're not going to play those like early round decks in the first few rounds of a tournament. Like, most people now, like, who are playing Edison have been playing Edison for a while. There are still new players coming in the game, but the internet is some beautiful thing, and people are looking up videos, they watch tournaments, and they see what people are playing. And we want to win. That's just what it comes down to. Like, players want to win, and they're going to play decks that win. And that's Blackwings, and that's the Forg deck. And that's, so when people are playing decks like that, that are, just good, S tier decks, like, you are going to have to make a decision. Are you going to play the tier 2 deck, the tier 3 deck, your favorite deck, and go there and get deck debuted for 10 cards like I do, and they're going to flip Royal Oppression when you have one big diva push? Like, that's stuff that's going to happen, and you are going to make that decision. And myself, I know I'm known as a zombie guy, but I've been doing this for a while now, and I'm on the fence. Like, it's the definition of insanity, just doing the same thing over and over again. I keep playing the deck. I top tournaments with it every year. I've top tournaments with zombies every year. I think I played one tournament this year, maybe. I don't even know if I have. So I haven't really played anything in 2025, but every year since 2022, I've topped multiple tournaments. 2022, I topped like 4 or 5, which was like the best year because it really worked. It was slow, and you could set recruiters and do all that. But ever since then, it's just gotten faster and faster. And if you're not doing something that's, breaking the speed limit, you're probably not winning. So Dragon Control, if it has control in the title, it's probably not winning. Throw that over here. Dragon Turbo. So this is where we have a deck that is super fast, right? But very inconsistent. Only a few players that are actually playing it, and they do very well with it. Ghost Rider being one of them. I think that this was the start of like modern Edison right now, where people like, how can we make decks that do that? And the problem is there are decks that combo and do crazy stuff, but they're a little bit more consistent, like the Gigaplant, the Forg deck. They just do it more consistently. Dragon Turbo has a far higher ceiling. Like, when they do a combo, they win the game. When Gigaplant does a combo, it doesn't usually win the game that turn. Forgs don't usually win turn 1. It takes a few turns sometimes. They can. So what I'm saying is Dragon Turbo is like the ceiling of combo decks, but it is also probably the most inconsistent of them. Definitely can top 8 a tournament. It has won tournaments. I'm not saying if you don't get hot, you could just win you definitely get hot in top 8 and just win. But I definitely expect to see some of these in top 8. Just not that common. A lot of players don't play it, which is surprising to me because it seems like a lot of players want to play as much uninteractive decks as they can. Some people like doing that. That's fine. But I don't know. Maybe I do think a lot of players like to play Edison because it is interactive. I think that's a draw to a lot of players. So, like myself, I want to play decks that are interactive. I want to be able to set traps and play back and forth, and that's why I won't play Dragon Turbo. And I'm also just ass with the deck. But it's just not the way I like to play. And I think a lot of players like to play that back and forth game. But I think that's starting to change a little bit, where we're getting a lot of modern players coming to play Edison, and they're, modern is like turn 1, turn 2. How do you make your deck the most consistent? How do you make the combos? And I think that's a lot of those players are starting to come and play dabble in Edison a little bit, and we're kind of starting to see a lot more combo decks because of that, I think. And this is, again, just a matter of opinion. Chaos Fairies. I don't think that's a real deck really anymore. I don't know what you do with it. If you're going to play Fairy, I think honestly just play pure Fairy. You could probably top 16 an event with this deck, but also setting Shining Angel and setting DD Warrior Lady is just not very good. It's kind of slow. It does have Herald going for it and Christia, so there's something for it. You could see it in top 16. You might see one here or there. It's decent. So they say it's decent against Blackwing. I still haven't been able to figure that out. But anyway. Fish OTK. So this deck here was done or piloted by like 1 or 2 players. I think James Ark made the deck, and he's probably the only person that's actually done anything with it. And I think that this deck here is probably just not as good as the Forg deck we have now. But there could be some innovation with this deck because, again, Fish OTK, when it says 1 turn kill, people want to play decks like that because you can just win the game. And the quicker you can win the game, hopefully you not just tie it throughout a tournament, right? You don't have that long fatigue trying to grind events like zombies. It's just brutal. Also, you can, usually win rather quickly, less likely to make mistakes and misplays if you know your combos very well, because the longer a match goes on, the more likely misplays are going to happen. And that's why a lot of people like the back and forth, because usually better players are able to grind out a win there because they can capitalize on a mistake from their opponent. But I think that Fish OTK is probably not good right now at all, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about a new Fish OTK deck in the next year. You know what I mean? Like that could be something that could happen. So I'm going to put it down here because I only think there's a few players that could actually win with this deck. It's not very popular. So Flameville, I'm going to keep zombies to the end, by the way. Flameville, ass. Although Rekindling is busted, if you can find a way to like turn Rekindling on very easily, you probably could win with this deck. Frogburn, that's not a real deck anymore. I think that was like a 1 week thing. Frog Combo, I don't even know what Frog Combo is. Is that like, that must be the Fishborg deck, I think. Is that what we're calling that? Frog Combo. I'm going to say, I think I made a Forg thing, so we're just going to throw this down here now. I actually have a Forg one made, so we don't get confused. Frog Monarch, that's like old Summon Thestalos. I don't think it's still probably fine, but I don't think you want to play that. Like, that's like driving a Toyota Corolla when you want to drive a Lamborghini. Like, just play Forgs. Like, then you got the Lamborghini. Gemini, this was a deck for 2 weeks, and it's probably tier 2, but I wouldn't play it. I think it could top 16, maybe top 8, but I think it was like cool for a short period of time. It is pretty explosive, but like this reminds me of the Gigaplant deck, and the Gigaplant deck just does this better. A GB combo is not a real deck. I don't know what that is. Pure GB, so like Test Tiger, like the deck that we got running around right now. I think this deck is tier 1. I hate to say it because I hate the deck. I've hated the deck. I think most players either they love the deck or they hate the deck. I don't think there's like a lot of us in between, but anyway, my locals, a lot of players play this. I cannot beat this deck. The reason why I don't do well against the deck is because when I make side decks and I make decks to play at like locals and monthlies, I don't cater my side deck to beat the locals meta because I'm trying to test for a bigger tournament and online tournaments or whatever. So maybe I need to do that because like there's a lot of Gladiator Beasts. And another thing too is like against Gladiator Beasts, when I play against that deck and testing, whatever it be online or whatever, I don't really consider a whole lot of what happens, whether I win or lose, as like hard data for my deck, because that deck is a mini game within itself. You're playing a mini game where you have to stop attacks, and if you can't stop the attacks, they just win, right? All it takes is like one attack to go through at one point, and it just steamrolls. So even like testing side deck cards is hard to do sometimes because sometimes you just don't have the card. You side deck 10 cards in and maybe you don't see one, or you see the wrong one, or you probably shouldn't side deck 10 cards, by the way. But I'm using that as an example where sometimes all it comes down to is what happens that day at the tournament. Like all the testing before that, sometimes you just blow them out of the water and you make starters turn 1 and they have no GBs and they just drew bad. And other times you just don't have a deep prison when you need to stop a Laquari attack and they steamroll the game. So I wouldn't put much stock in when you test against this deck, like whether your deck wins or lose, like, oh man, I lost a GB, I have to make a new deck. Like I wouldn't do that. I think that you should be mindful of what they play and the cards that they're side decking in and cards that's in their main deck. But I wouldn't go like crazy hard on yourself because you couldn't stop a Bestiary from attacking and they made like I just wouldn't do that. Gravekeeper, ass. And we have Hero Beat. I would play this before I play Divi Hero Beat, to be honest with you, because at least it has Skill Drain, which is just better. I feel like at least Skill Drain is like a floodgate and your opponent can't play. So I would probably play Hero Beat, but I don't think either of them are all that great. But right now, if you have a meta like all Blackwing, all GB, if you played all that throughout the rounds, you probably could win. Frog Hero, I still think that this deck is tier 1. Hero Frog's tier 1. I don't think it's S tier anymore. I think that you would just play Forgs. But it's extremely good deck. It does all the things that it always has done. It makes Miracle Fusion live turn as early as turn 1, turn 2, whatever. It has explosive plays. I think it's fine to play in a tournament. You could easily win the event with it. Hopeless Dragon is definitely hopeless. Let's throw that away. Hopeless Value, I don't even know what that's supposed to be, so we're just going to throw that in the way, in the trash. Kokomiro, I don't even know why this is on here. If I could delete this thing, I would. That's trash. Chrysius Warren. So this deck is actually really good. I think this deck is probably tier 1.5. I do. I think this is in the same tier as DV Hero, Dragon Turret. I think it's all in that same tier. I know my, buddy there, Dan Rose, who we grew up playing in local regionals. He tops like every event with Chrysius Warren. He's probably one of the few players who does. I think this deck is just better than Lightsworn. If it's your day, you can mill Triple Wolf and just win like turn 2. It's explosive. It has Chrysia, which is just like Floodgate with legs. And Honest. It plays a lot of good cards. So I think that this deck is... you could top 8 with it. You could win the whole event if you run hot. So I would definitely play that. This deck is not real. Throw that in the trash. Lightsworn, 60 cards. If you're playing 60 cards, it's trash. Throw it here. Pure Lightsworn, here we go. This is probably tier 2. I don't know why you'd want to play Pure Lightsworn when you can play Chrysius Warren. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It plays a lot of the same cards. Just play Chrysius Warren in my opinion. But if you eat like a big bowl of Wheaties and, do 20 jumping jacks before the tournament, I'm sure that you could, maybe have the luck you need to win with Lightsworn. Let's see, what's next? Machina Gadget is probably like... I think this deck could do something like possibly top 16. Nobody I know plays this deck. I don't play this deck. I don't see a whole thrill in summoning a gadget, but some people like playing it. It's really underexplored. I feel like a lot of players just don't want to play gadgets because there's so many other cool things you can do in this format than summon green and search whatever one, yellow, I don't know. So that's where I put that. Machina Gear, I don't even know what that is. Let's just throw that over here. Machina Control, I'm going to say that this is the Machina deck there with the Raikos, hamsters, and all that. I think this deck is actually really good, and Fraser Smith and myself were talking about it recently. I've played this deck once at a tournament. I did pretty well with it. I like the way it plays. The problem is, like, setting Raikos and hamsters is not too thrilling anymore, but you can be very explosive with this deck, and I think it has a very good matchup into Blackwing, as well as GBs. Like, anything that has bigger than 2100 attack is generally pretty good against Gladiator Beast. Problem is, how do you beat frogs, right? They have a duplex on the field. You have to like set Raiko, hope to flip Raiko to get rid of it, and that might just be, and I'm saying it will happen at times that works out, but it also is kind of slow hoping to rely on that. So maybe you just need to side deck a bit more appropriately, but I think that this deck here is probably better than some of these others. I think this deck, I could see myself playing this deck in the future, because I think it's pretty good. Quick Draw Machine is probably like, I love Quick Draw, but we are probably living in fantasy land if we think that this is going to do much. Quick Draw Plants, that's probably my favorite version. I still think that this deck could top 16 if everything goes your way. I don't think it can win an event right now. It would need like everything possible to go its way to do that. Set it so it could win if you just go first every round and go Hamster, Raiko, Caius. Sure, that can get you there. But I just don't think it doesn't have enough going for it. Like, Drill Warrior is just not that exciting. They just flip Compulse and it's done. Volcanic Quick Draw, it's the same thing. Every time I play Volcanic Quick Draw, I draw 2 shells and then I laugh. We'll throw that away. Rescue Cat, like, trash. Twilight, the only Rescue Cat that's any good is if it's in Gladiator Beast. Twilight is, like, why would you... It's better than Pure Lightsworn in my opinion, but I would probably just rather play Chrysius Warren. Six Samurai... Maybe if this is like 2012, I don't even know when this deck is relevant. We'll throw that out. Value Turbo. So here we go. This might be a little controversial here. Let's just move this bad boy up a little bit here. I still think this deck is S tier. But I will say that this deck could be on its way down to tier 1. And the reason why I say that is because if you're not already in Edison War League, you should be. You can't join a team at this point. Free agency is up. But you can watch all the film. And you can also get, you can hear a lot of the top players in the game, players 100 times better than me, will sit there, and a lot of them are reviewing film. And I had messaged one like, hey, can you what do you think about my Blackwing matchup or my gameplay? And they had offered some advice. So there's some of that going on. If you are curious about side decking or your match, I'm sure there'll be enough people there to try to offer a hand. But get ready, because they're going to tell you some stuff that you probably don't want to hear in terms of your play. If you're not playing well, they're going to let you know that. So that's also good and bad. But anyway, I would definitely hop in the Discord server and watch some of the replays. If you watch the Vayu versus Gigaplant matchup, I feel that Gigaplant is just destroying this deck. Now, there are obviously times where they have Royal Oppression and they're able to stop things, or the Gigaplant deck bricks, but setting Raikou and Hamster is kind of laughable at this point. It just doesn't seem to be very good. And Vayu Turbo can be very explosive, right? You can have those all monster hands where it's like special Greffer, pitch, slam dark arm, burial, and you can like kind of just do all that stuff in one turn and win. But it also can play it can be slow and grindy. It can play a control game, and that just doesn't work that well like right now. And I'm not saying it's never going to win again. I definitely think it will, because it can play Royal Oppression, it can play Deck Devi, it can be explosive. So it does have a lot going for it, specifically the fact that it can play Deck Devi and Royal Oppression. But how does it out Titanial? How does it out Stardust? It's because that Gigaplant deck can just make that board turn one, and it's hard for it to compete. So I think that I still think Vayu Turbo is going to win tournaments. And I just don't think it's going to win like every tournament like it did, like, I don't know, a year or two ago, like won everything. I think we might be beyond that now. But definitely you play this deck, you have a very good shot at winning the entire event. But I do think that I wouldn't be overly surprised if we're looking back at 6 months and people are like, Vayu Turbo is like tier 1 now, or one, like, I wouldn't be surprised. Let's see here. X-Saber. This deck, all of a sudden, like, people just want to play this deck, and I still don't think it's that great. I don't know. Maybe it's top of tier 2. Like, you could probably top 16. I know a couple have top 8, but they were like team oriented. I'm not saying that the player did well or bad, but you just don't know. You know what I mean? Sometimes you could be on a team and the other two players can be undefeated and you might not have won a round at all, right? I'm sure that didn't happen. I'm just saying I don't put a lot of stock into team YCS and team tournaments, because it's hard to see what actually happened unless they posted a record like, oh, I went 6-1-1. Well, then So I do think X-Sabers has nothing. We haven't had like any game breaking news about X-Sabers. Everything's been the exact same. People are just starting to play it all of a sudden. I think it's because it does have some crazy combos where you could just loop someone's whole hand. So I think people are looking for options like, what can this deck do something that's utterly broken? And if it can, how do we do it? And how do we do it consistently? So I think that's what people are looking for now. And X-Sabers does have a broken hand loop. It's one of the only decks that can do it. So I would probably say it's like a tier 2-ish deck. I think that it could top a tournament. I won't like put it in the ass tier for sure, but a year ago I would have. Let's see here. Sorry, my nose is like itchy. We have Forgs here. So let's get into the Forg deck. Forgs is tier 1. I don't know if it's the best deck of the format. I think Blackwings is still probably the best deck of the format, and the reason why is because it has answers to Forg, built-in answers. It has Icarus Attack, it has Royal Oppression, it can main deck Devi. Sorry, my nose. And I think that if you're going to play a Frog deck, it's probably just the Forg deck. Like, why wouldn't you? This deck does crazy stuff. It's able to OTK through Gorge, Trag. It can Colossal Armorion. If you put out, like, a Spirit Reaper, well, I won't use Spirit Reaper, but you can put out a Sangan in attack position, and they can still equip, like, 2 Armor Arms to it and, like, OTK you. It does crazy stuff. It's almost like a modern deck right now. I honestly haven't played a lot against it, just because people at my locals haven't been playing it. And, again, I haven't been playing a lot, but I do know I watch tournaments when I have a chance, and I see a lot of people having success with it. I think it's won a couple tournaments already this year, and I don't think the deck's going anywhere. If you're gonna play Frogs, like, it's either this or Frog Hero, and this is definitely better. I think most Frog players would tell you that this deck is just better. It's probably less consistent than Frog Hero. I don't even know for sure. Salvage is just a stupid card. Lets you get back 2 cards, and DD Crow doesn't stop it. Yeah, Dandelion discard for a Fishborg turns into like OTK with Death Frogs. It just does crazy stuff. And then we have, I'm gonna save the zombie stuff at the end. Let's talk about Gigaplant. Gigaplant. So this deck here is, I still think it's probably at the bottom of S tier, to be honest with you. I think that this deck is close to tier 1 because it can be inconsistent, but the boards that it makes are just broken. It's not as consistent as Forgs in my opinion, but I feel like it could be faster than Frogs. Like Frogs need a very specific opening, I think, like Dandelion to do anything, to like be very explosive. I don't know. This deck is really scary, and it's not like everywhere right yet, but I do think it's going to gain some more popularity if it continues to be successful, especially topping tournaments. So yeah, and I think this deck just beats Value, and I could be wrong, but I do think it has a very good matchup against it. Again, if Value goes first and has Royal Oppression, you just don't have an out, sure, but that's that. Let's see here. Okay, so now we're on to the zombie stuff. Zombie Stun is not a real deck. Let's throw that away. It could be a real deck maybe in the future, but not right now. So here's my take on zombies. I'm going to call this one Diva Zombie. It doesn't really exist anymore. It's Offering Zombie. That's Diva Zombie at this point. Diva Zombie to me is like the old school first 2022 when I was playing like, Card Trooper, and it's pretty much Offering Zombie minus 7 traps and the offerings. This deck here, so we're going to call it Offering Zombie, is just not good. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not good. It's not good enough to win a tournament right now. It's could probably top 8 with the right pilot. Someone better than me probably, to get Offering Zombies there. It's not very popular. Not many people are playing it. And the few people I do know playing it are kind of on the fence like myself. I have always said, in even other videos, that it was the... I liked it better. At one point, I felt it was better than Instant Zombies, and this is a few years back. And then I had changed, as the game progressed, format has progressed. I said, it's probably not as good as Instant Zombie, but it's still my favorite build. It is still my favorite build. It just, Edison is not set up right now to set Tomato Pass. It's just not that good. It's not that good to set Goblin Zombie Pass because there's a lot of black. So, and this is a prime example. I actually had this come up the other day where it's like, Pyramid Turtle Goblin in hand, and let's just say you don't have an immediate conversion for either of them. Back in the day, because you could be playing against Quick Draw, because you could be playing against Synchro Cat, setting Goblin in hopes to top one of the 3 Kaias or a Diva or a Gale was often a very good play. But because those decks have been phased out and more people are on the mainstream decks like Blackwing and Giga Planet, whatever, setting Goblin becomes a liability now, and then you're already behind a turn. So now you have to be, now you have to set the recruiter more often, and now if you do happen to run into Value, you're setting recruiters into potential hamsters and Raikou. It just creates this dilemma from turn 1. It's like crazy. Offering is a cool combo. It's slow, unfortunately. It did what the deck, it gave the deck what it needed at the time back in 2023, that Diva Zombie was still just a little slow and too reliant on recruiters, and Offering kind of lets you play without recruiters being attacked. But that's now it requires Offering, Diva, and like Goblin or Sangan. It requires too many cards. Setting 16 traps in a deck is just too slow unless it's Blackwings. Yeah, so I'm on the fence about playing Offering any further. It's just I don't think it can get the job done right now. And I'm not saying it could never top a tournament. It easily could top a tournament if it had the right luck. Like there are tournaments where back in 22 when I was playing, or 23 when I was playing Diva Zombie, I didn't play any frogs at the time. I would dodge all of them, and then I make top cut, and then you play a frog deck, and boom, you lose. Or you at Nationals, I played 4 Blackwing decks. I beat 3 of them, and then it's like round 6 or 7, and I lose to 1 because I get deck devied or Royal Oppression flips, and like your tournament runs done, right? So sometimes you beat. And then September, I went to RBT. I played 3 or 4 Blackwing, and I couldn't beat a single one. So it just depends on what happens that day. If they have Royal Oppression at the time, it's hit or miss. So I would probably stay away from Offering Zombie. I know most players have kind of not even bothered picking it up. And we'll talk about the Instant and the Hero Zombie. So I've been playing a lot of Instant. I shouldn't say a lot, but I played Zombie Hero and I played Instant Zombie. I've been playing all 3 versions kind of at my monthly. Instant Zombie, like I had mentioned in other videos, solved a lot of the problems that the old school build had, which was it just lost to Monarchs, turned, frogs when they slam Monarchs every turn. It gave you that I play Instant Fusion, I can play the game, and it did some really cool stuff with Reaper on the Nightmare and Book of Life. Problem was, and it does exactly what I said it does, it loses the Blackwing. It doesn't give you any... It doesn't help. You don't have a strong matchup into Blackwing, and your matchup into Value is probably a little bit worse because now you're like going full-blown Instant Fusion to try to play the Caius out and all that, and if they have Royal Oppression, that deck cannot play at all. I know Trap Sun is a card that has been included. And if you do have the Trap Sun, then like sure it works. So in other words, like instant zombie gives you that speed that you need, but it lacks like a mid game against some of the other decks, which we really don't want a mid game anymore, to be honest with you. But the explosiveness of Diva Zombie is literally one synchro, where it's like instant fusion, Krebins make a synchro. That's really not all that great. It really relies on Book of Life and like Reaper attacking and dropping cards, and I think it is probably the best version of all three. But I don't think that it does anything better at all. Maybe even a little worse into the Blackwing matchup, which Blackwing is more common now. I wasn't overly impressed by the deck. Like, it doesn't fit my play style. I don't like to go -1 to make a synchro into back row. Like, I know a lot of players do that. They're playing, just because they want to turn Book of Life on, and it just doesn't feel good going instant fusion Krebins, make a synchro bottomless. I just don't like that. It can of course still do the whole goblin play, but I think that if you had to pick a zombie deck to play in a tournament, it's probably instant, probably with Trap Suns. So I would put that in. I still think it's a tier 2 deck. I don't think it's tier 1.5 anymore. It's probably one of the better versions. It's definitely better than Offering. I almost would put Offering down a little bit lower, but I don't want to be that crazy. Zombie Hero, this deck here I like a lot, and I think that this is something that I would consider playing, because I think it goes a lot along the lines of Diva Hero, where you're just looking for straight gas and you're okay saying, I'm going to suffer some consistency issues, but I'm just going to win turn 2. And I would put, I guess I can't say Instant is the best deck. I would say Zombie Hero is the best deck. I would say that this is probably the version I would play, just because it can do unfair things. And I know people playing Turtles with it. I just think it's a better version of Diva Hero, and if I put Diva Hero in 1.5, I think I have to put Zombie Hero in 1.5. So yeah, I would imagine the Zombie Hero ahead of Instant Zombie probably feels right, and then Offering Zombie is kind of drifting away. And then we have Well Dad, and this is a deck that I have not explored well enough. I think that there's something to be had with this deck here, and it has had some pretty good showings. I know a couple online showings, and then on Ultimate Time was a showing. And if I don't really consider this, I guess it is zombies. I don't know. It's like Teledad. I don't know what you want to call it. So I didn't like classify it as a zombie deck. This deck could be like a sleeper deck. It's probably still tier 1.5. But it could be into like tier 1 if the right build. Like, it doesn't feel good to have Power Wells and Krebins, and like, you got a lot of cards that don't do anything, but it can be extremely explosive. So my guess is that if zombies are going to go somewhere now, maybe it's in the Well Dad route or like Teledad route. I don't know. But anyway, I'm not like, these are not ranked in any order here in the tiers. They're just kind of there. I know most people want to hear how I thought about zombies, and I'll tell you straight up, I don't think any of the zombie builds are that great at all. I would almost call them ass. I think Zombie Hero is probably the best. Instant Zombie can have some success if you are built the right way and you get some bracket luck and you have Trapstone when you need it. Like, if you have Trapstone when you need it, Instant Zombie might just be the best deck. But they all lose to the same thing. All versions lose to Royal Oppression and Deck Debbie. The only version that is able to just OTK like turn 2 is the Zombie Hero version. But again, you run into consistency issues. And that's kind of where we are with Edison right now. We're running into this combo. We're in this combo era where the decks are not super consistent. They're consistent, but not like Modern where they just do the combo almost every game. They will get to their combo if you give them time, and that's one of the problems with Offering Zombie. You just are sitting around waiting to do something, and your opponent's like, oh, I need a Lone Fire, draw. Oh, not yet, I'm getting there, Lone Fire. And then when they see it, they just win, right? Where you're hoping to set Offering and wait a turn, okay, flip Offering, and then like they flip Wing Blast and interrupt your one play. Okay, go, I'll try to do it next turn. It's just too slow. So I think that in a nutshell, I think Edison right now, we are heading towards combo format. We are in combo format. I think decks are okay with sacrificing a bit of consistency to be more explosive. And I think that's kind of where I need to start thinking. I think that the whole grind game, +1, -1, have multiple turns back and forth is probably not going to work over the next 6 months. And I think more and more players are going to be playing more of these combo decks. I think more and more players are playing real decks. I don't think you're going to have the tournament runs where you're playing Chaos Fairy, Flameville, Synchro Cat, Quick Draw. Like, I just don't think you're going to play against those slow decks. I just don't think you can see a lot of that. Again, every tournament's different. You're always going to have somebody who wants to play the deck that they like. And so I'm not saying you'll never run into that. And I'm not saying that you'll always run into combo decks and that's all the format is. It's not that. But you can feel that this format is much faster right now. And you can just sit down at a table and you're setting your recruiter and they're just like, they almost laugh at you. So that's kind of my 2 cents right now on Edison format. I still love the format. I think it's still the best retro format. I do think that this format has a way of balancing itself out somehow or another. There's always an answer. Somebody will figure things out. When one deck becomes tier 1, there's a side deck option that will just stop it. And I don't think that this format will be solved. Every year, every 6 months, there's always a new deck. There'll be something else made by someone who makes crazy decks. Probably James Ark will make something new. Rognock will make a new frog deck. Like, somebody's going to make something crazy. And we're going to continue down this path where I just don't think we're going to have a stall format. I do think that one thing I'm pretty certain on is Blackwing will always be an S tier because those cards are just busted. And that's pretty much all I have today. Going to keep trying to make videos when I have time. There's the tier list. Again, these are the S tier decks in my opinion. I think Gladiator Beast is probably tier 1. It's at the end of here. Frog Hero, and then you can argue like maybe Machine of Control goes here. I don't know. I don't play enough of that. But that's my 2 cents. And with that being said, I'll see y'all on the next one.